what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoyed it. Yesterday, constantly, Kelly was talking about, like, clearly he's the Heisman front runner. Clearly he's the Heisman front runner. And then he was asked about, you've been in this for a while. When it comes to campaigning for player awards, do you feel like you have to be emphatic, or do you kind of let it take care of itself?
I used to be low-key about it, to be quite frank with you. But when you have the opportunity today, I think you have to be able to talk about your players when they're doing something that's so special, and in particular what Jayden's doing. I think it's my responsibility when I have this opportunity in front of the media to talk about something that I haven't seen happen in my 3+ decades as a head football coach, somebody that has developed and has excelled at an elite level. He's an exciting football player. I think he's the most exciting football player individually in the country, and I think it's my responsibility to talk about it.
So not really mincing any words there. Continue to say that he is clearly he should be the Heisman winner. And look, we'll talk recruiting here in a little bit. Just touch on it. We're not going to spend a bunch of time on it, right? But one of the recruiting names that's constantly floating around now, and I don't know the latest on it, but is the number one quarterback, Bryce Underwood, right? That's the 2025 class, I believe, Taylor. And I really thought this was quite interesting. This is Kelly 4. And it's how this Jayden Daniels Heisman pitch, like, is this something that you can carry forward in recruiting?
Well, I think in certain instances, if Jayden Daniels was coming back next year, it certainly affects it in some fashion. Or let's say he was a sophomore, it certainly would affect it a little bit, right? But now that he is certainly in his last season of competition, it opens up just the fact that player development and the ability to compete for the Heisman Trophy exists at LSU, because it's not only right now, but it happened a few years ago with another LSU quarterback. So now you're starting to build, not an accident, but a trend here at LSU. So that obviously speaks to recruiting and the ability to recruit elite quarterbacks to LSU.
So, like, there was a long time there where LSU was like the elephant graveyard from Lion King, right? There were just bones of former 4-star quarterbacks littered throughout the fields, and it felt like that was going to be who you were. And even now, you can feel how slowly brand image turns, right? Because people think about LSU, they still think the Tigers should be good on defense. Mm-hmm. It still feels a bit surprising to see an offensive, a mainly offensive LSU football team. Well,
and an offensive defense.
Yeah, I was going to say, the defense is offensive in its own way. Yeah. But so really everything's offensive on this team. but it's so true. I mean, we're now twice. If Jayden Daniels wins the Heisman, two quarterback Heisman winners within half a decade of each other, with completely different staffs, completely different cast of characters, it speaks to a place that has certain advantages. And maybe that's like because you have great skill positions. We can really try to dissect the anatomy of how that is, but it speaks to a place that has great advantages that can set a young quarterback up for success, which is a vision that, well, not only can you sell to high school cats like Underwood, but maybe even more importantly to your transfers. Yeah. Given that both guys are transfers. Because remember, we went through the athletic study last year, and if you sign a 5-star quarterback, there's actually now a less than 50% chance that he stays, even if he plays. Guys just leave. It just is what it is. So maybe actually, now that we're talking this out, even more importantly, it comes from selling transfers on what you can be if you come here.
There's so many things that you could sell with that. I mean, hey, in 2 years, like 2 quarterbacks in like a 5-year period, we've got the Heisman Trophy winner at that position. Not when Jason White at Oklahoma or Troy Smith at Ohio State won the Heisman either, right? Kind of, I don't want to say by default, but a little bit, right? Their seasons were okay. They were okay, and they got the Heisman Trophy. We're talking about like generational type record-breaking stats that both of those quarterbacks had. And so not only would they have won the Heisman, they would have done it with like elite special seasons that we haven't really ever seen before. And so I think that also makes it go up a notch. And you have to be able to recruit at a high level at that position when you can say that, hey, these guys, Joe Burrow wasn't even playing at Ohio State. They didn't realize what he had. He comes to LSU. and then he does what he does, right? Jayden Daniels was good at Arizona State, but he couldn't unlock what he did here at LSU. There's so many different ways that you could recruit to that, and it is wild because, like, LSU was a graveyard for a very, very long time, and you would have, obviously, like, we could go back in history, like, you had a run where you had Jamarcus and Flynn and Perilou on the same team. Like, so you've had really good quarterbacks, but this changes the game. If you're able to win another Heisman Trophy, bring in top talent, you can possibly bring in the #1 quarterback in the country out of high school. You've got a solid backup right now that we all think is going to do some big things next year as well. So if you can continue, that's what you have to do. Like,
yearly success.
and then you build off of it.
And it's not going to be yearly Heisman, but that's what bums me out about the Miles.
But it was for Oklahoma for a while. I mean, you can be somewhat in that category.
That's what bums me out, though, about the Miles Brennan portion of this equation is that he was going to be statistically overwhelming in 2020. Like, that Mizzou game, he had improved every week. That Mizzou game, he was absolutely popping off, and then their momentum kind of got arrested. And even though there were some good performances within, it took you a couple of years to kind of refine it. So, yeah, Nuss could potentially represent a nice continuation, even though that's a lot of pressure, Bo. A lot of pressure.
It is, but if there's one mentality that is going to accept the challenge, it's probably going to be Garrett Nussmeier.
It's true, and maybe we'll get to watch.
Because that ain't for everybody.
Maybe we'll get to watch him versus Notre Dame in the Real Quest Bowl, which is what Action Network has LSU doing. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.